Hey y'all. Before we begin, I'd like to give a shout out to Blackbane for the video idea as well as being a key player in the topic of this video. In RuneScape, there are hundreds if not thousands of things that can be done in game as well as a plethora of ways to play the game. Despite this, the majority of players seem to get pigeonholed into a small fraction of these activities for efficiency purposes. Today's video topic is going to be the absolute furthest thing I can think of from an efficiency standpoint. What are some of the most pointless items in game? That damn old boot from Mudskipper Point? Broken arrows? The item today is only slightly more useful than those items. It heals 1 HP and has very few uses. I'm of course talking about cabbage, but as we will find out, what is trash to one person can be treasured by others and put up on the highest pedestal. That's where Blackbane comes in. Around 2000 to 2003, like many people his age, Blackbane didn't have a whole lot going on after finishing high school. He therefore turned to a game called Runescape. However, after playing Runescape for a little bit, he came to the realization that no matter what he did within the game, it was all technically the same. He could click on virtual rocks or virtual trees, or click on items in game to collect them. It was all the same. Blackbane chose the latter to pass the time. He would start out with limpwort roots due to him thinking they had a funny name. He would soon switch to cabbage as he thought it would be funny to collect what was perceived by many to be one of the most useless items in the game. One day while picking cabbage near the Edgeville Monastery and banking in Edgeville, a player noticed the weird route Blackbane was taking as well as banking over and over. Curious, the player asked what Blackbane was doing. Blackbane would state that he was picking cabbages and banking them, which would result in other players laughing. Unfazed, Blackbane would continue his mission of collecting cabbage, occasionally shouting cabbage-related phrases upon banking. By 2004, Blackbane had collected over 100,000 cabbage. Wanting to see what was so special about picking cabbage, other players joined in. Eventually, there was a good deal of other players picking the leafy green plant. Blackbane would start thinking about creating a group of cabbage pickers. However, he didn't want to call it a clan, but wanted the group to operate more like a secretive cult. One unique aspect is that he wouldn't do any active recruiting in these early days. Instead, he would wait for players to suggest that he should start a group of cabbage pickers, and upon reading this, he would then inform them that one already existed, and he would then welcome them into the order while saying the phrase Kabaji, which seems to be a cult-like chant that sounds similar to cabbage. Thus, the Order of Cabbage cult was born. The group reached about 20 people in mid-2004 and were thriving despite cabbage picking rates being somewhat low due to their low numbers, taking a few months to gather 100,000 cabbage. However, by the end of 2004, due to a revolving door of low-ranking members and waning activity, members began arguing consistently, causing the forums to be shut completely down. Heading into 2005, the group looked even worse, with Blackbane handing over leadership to Ignite 168 and a few other elders who then left shortly afterwards. Ignite 168 would restart many of the group's favorite activities such as cabbage bombs, which we'll get into later, cabbage runs, and other events. By the middle of 2005, the cult had been revived and there was no stopping it. They made the group public, which then allowed them to quickly recruit hundreds of people into the order. The Order of Cabbage had an outfit that members would wear: black robes, a chef hat, red cape, and a red amulet, as red complemented the color of cabbage. Also of note, the cult had a fascination with the number 7. There were 7 rows of cabbage in the Falador cabbage patch. The inventory in RuneScape is 28, which is 7 times 4. The cult home world was world 7. You will probably hear me reference the number 7 many times throughout the video. The Order of Cabbage turned out to be a huge success due to mainly one factor: fun while using cabbage as a sort of medium. Part of this fun could be attributed to the creative events and ideas the Order would come up with. I'd like to quickly go through those. Cabbage bombing is a term created by the Order of Cabbage, which involves the members gathering inventories of cabbage and dropping them all at once on different squares in a given area, clogging up the minimap with red dots and the designated area with heaps of cabbage as far as the eye could see. From the pictures that can still be found, it seemed to cause mass confusion among regular players, seeing hundreds of cabbages just appear out of nowhere, as well as characters clad in black robes shouting Kabaji. The Order had perfected the art of cabbage picking to the point where they came up with special picking patterns based on the patch and how many people they had. I'm going to show a few of the patterns on screen, although some of the patterns might not match up with what I'm saying. They had the drain pipe, the quadratic explosion, the waltz of death, the drain pipe of death, the weave, the JFP maneuver, the lattice, and the 3-person drain pipe, to name some of them, with each technique having a difficulty rating and more details within the Green Book of Knowledge. Oh yeah, the Order of Cabbage made their own lengthy guidebook known as the Green Book of Knowledge. This was a detailed book that had the aforementioned picking patterns, notable members of the Order, events, history and lore of the Order, cabbage bombing techniques, the best locations for cabbage, and a glossary for cabbage-related terms, and much more. The Order also had a detailed website which was complete with over 300,000 forum posts and a cabbage tracker which was based on how many cabbages that were collected by the Order. In the latest archived versions of the website I could find, this tracker was well over 4 million cabbages collected. According to Blackbane, this number was more realistically in the range of 7 to 10 million if the cabbage that was thrown away in the various events and cabbage bombings was to be accounted. They even went so far as to create their own fictional cabbage god within the game, Kralashankas, as this was before Brassica Prime was introduced into the game. The Order of Cabbage held certain events every so often, such as Cabbage Palooza, a huge cabbage-themed event involving cabbage-themed games of the Order's creation, cabbage collecting, and more, with the first one being held in August of 2004. Speaking of cabbage-themed games, the Order created the Cabbage Battleship, Falador Raid, and Cabbage Emote games. Another thing that the Order would do is host what is known as King of the Patch, where members would be broken up into smaller teams, and whichever team collected the most cabbage after one full month would be declared the winner. The Order would also host Newbie Appreciation Days, with the first one being held in September of 2004. The Order would go around giving out free weapons and armor to lower-leveled players around RuneScape, as well as tips. The cult had its fair share of copycats and enemies, with one of the more notable ones arriving in 2006. A small group of players cropped up and began to troll members of the Order by dropping potatoes near the cabbage patches, with the members of the Order dubbing this event the Stew Uprising, or the Rise of Stew. This potato-loving group would dwindle almost as soon as they appeared, quickly growing tired as they did not have the same passion and energy as the cabbage cult. However, at some point, these potato-loving fiends would join forces with an onion-based group to form the cleverly named Pot Onions. There was even an event held in order to wage war on this new group, dubbed the Cabbage Conquest, which was held on June 1st, 2008. This new group was eventually snuffed out by the Order. There were also other interactions with members of the Tippet forums, where Tippet members would attempt to flood the cabbage fields with bananas and other objects similar to the cabbage bombs. However, the cabbage cult had a set list of instructions on their website for defending against such attacks. These defensive maneuvers would be called the Alpha Defense, which was a simple yet effective strategy of dropping the cabbage that was already picked in between the existing cabbage spawns in the field while picking up any items that were not cabbage and eating them, such as the bananas and aforementioned potatoes. Upon winning these wars and battles, the Order of Cabbage would do a celebratory cabbage picking run. The Order of Cabbage will be remembered fondly by many for years to come, with ModMark in a 2015 old-school RuneScape livestream stating that the Cabbage clan was by far the best clan, more than likely referring to the Order.
Of a cabbage, so he could hang that up in his office at work. And I think he did have it there until he left.
So what is this obsession with cabbage? Why is cabbage so good?
Right, it's not good. Have you tried eating one in game? Have you looked at the message? It says, Yuck, I hate cabbage.
Okay.
Have you? Clearly, you've never met Brassica Prime.
No.
Right. Well, if you had, then you would know. You just know.
Cabbages are cool, but I think they were originally put in the game because they were just there. They were put on the ground.
Well, I mean, even sort of prior to the game, and I don't know if the signature came first or the cabbage thing came first. Andrew at one point signed a lot of his emails with an @ sign, which we said was a cabbage for some reason. I don't know if the cabbage thing came from the @ sign or the @ sign came from the cabbage, but it definitely existed prior to RuneScape.
He signed my copy of Betrayal at Falador with 2 square brackets with an @ symbol in between and said it was a cabbage in a box.
Yes.
All right. So
Cabbage A, the Cabbage clan were and still are the best clan that ever existed ever.
There
because
you go.
we would do big cabbage-orientated events where people would just get together in the cabbage field and see if you could pick all the cabbages at the same time.
It was
It's
the
always a good
time
laugh.
that he basically set up the chat filter, so instead of starring it out, it would say cabbage.
Yeah.
You know, and
In addition, the amount of individuals they helped in-game and in real life was immense, with many people coming forward and telling the leadership of the Order that the clan helped them through tough times in their personal lives. Lastly, it's been speculated that things such as the Falador Cabbage Portal, Brassica Prime, and many other cabbage-related references may not have made it into the game without the impact of this cult, although it's important to note that there seemed to be a fixation on cabbage prior to the clan's formation, with Andrew's mother painting him an oil painting of a cabbage that was hung in his office for years, and the chat filter in the early days utilizing the word cabbage. The whole time I was researching this, I was amazed at the dedication to such a random item within the game. Days upon days went into making the Order's website, weeks went into making up the games that were played, months went into writing the Green Book of Knowledge, and years went into collecting cabbage. This random stupid item brought hundreds of people together, and many long-lasting memories were created because of it. But most importantly, many players had fun, a concept that needs to be focused on more within the game today. The clan would begin winding down leading up to Cabbage Palooza 7 in 2011, the last official Cabbage Palooza event that I'm aware of. The forums still remain up to this day, although it is in the form of a Tapatalk website instead of traditional forums. There are still occasional posts that will crop up once or twice a year of members just saying hi again to their fellow cult members. One of the clan's longtime detractors, Sutin, claimed that Operation Doodlebug would be what would destroy the cult. Operation Doodlebug was just the notion that time would eventually kill off the cult. However, Blackbane countered this with a statement. As long as one person finds it in their heart to want to pick a cabbage, the spirit of cabbage will live on forever. For as it inspired me to create, so too it can inspire others. That's about all I have for y'all. I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, thanks to Blackbane for communicating with me and giving me good bits of background information for the video. Peace.